If you want to hear about all the references Annabel Creation has to the director's old YouTube videos, then stick around to the end of this video. Welcome back to Things You Missed. On the last episode, I preached about some of the things you might have missed in the original Annabelle. So today, I'll be putting together the pieces of the 2017 prequel, Annabel Creation. This video is special because this is the first time I'm covering a movie made by a fellow YouTuber. This film was directed by David F Sandberg, who goes by Ponysmasher on YouTube. His most well-known video was Lights Out, which got him the job to make the feature film version. Here's a photo of me being weird at the premiere at VidCon 2016. The lead actress of this film is Talitha Bateman, who's the brother of Gabriel Bateman from Lights Out. Annabel Creation opens with the shot of a doll eyeball in Mr. Mullins' toy shop. This image foreshadows the fate of his wife, who lost her left eye after being attacked by the demon and wears a porcelain mask to cover it up. This sign from Mullins' toy company describes the figures as handcrafted fine dolls, and we later see that there are only 100 of them in existence. This is actually the director's hand writing the number 1 right here. He explains this in his behind the scenes on his YouTube channel, but I think this also helps answer a question from the first one, which is why this particular doll is so rare. The real-life quote-unquote haunted doll described in the Warrens' case files is a common Raggedy Ann doll. The sign also says that this doll is available at Palmieri's toy shop, a reference to the Palmieri apartments in the original Annabelle. We've talked about how that original film naturally drew some inspiration from the previous king of creepy doll movies, Child's Play, which I have a whole series of Things You Missed videos on. I found this opening to the second Annabelle film to be very reminiscent of the opening of Child's Play 2, both essentially showing the creation of the doll. Mr. Mullins' daughter Bee plays hide and seek with him, and her hiding spot is behind the curtain by the window. After her death, the demon uses her likeness on many occasions, which could explain why it hides in the same spot in Mia's apartment in Annabelle, and why it uses the record player to mess with its victims. 12 years after Bee's death, the Mullinses decide to take in a group of orphan girls, and we meet Linda and Janice on the bus ride over. She does know that that's not red, right? The older girls in the front of the bus are reading Modern Teen magazine, and this one's really into it. They arrive and meet Mr. Mullins, and the front door of the house has both traditional and inverted crosses, perhaps a clue about the forces of good and evil at play beyond these doors. When the girls tour the house, it's one big long tracking shot, just like this shot in The Conjuring, which this movie is a spin-off of, and The Curse of La Llorona, or as I call it, Spanish The Conjuring, also a part of this series. In the behind-the-scenes videos, Ponysmasher describes a shot that took 12 takes, and I'm guessing that this is it.
Well, on Annabel Creation, I think the most we ever did was 12 takes, but that was for a long steady cam shot with 8 different actors, and it was pretty complicated.
Mr. Mullins introduces Janice to the chairlift, which is very slow. I felt like I was waiting for King Zora to get out of the way again. There's also a brief moment where Bee's image can barely be seen in the background. During the night, Janice realizes the door to Bee's room is somehow unlocked and wanders in there against Mr. Mullins' orders, where she discovers that the Annabelle doll is locked in the closet, surrounded by Bible pages. After the closet door continues to open on its own, she throws a blanket over the doll. As she continues to explore the room, it comes for her and corners her. But when the blanket falls away, it's revealed that there was nothing underneath. This is a direct reference to David Sandberg's short film Attic Panic on the Ponysmasher YouTube channel. Later in the movie, when the teenage girl, Carol, gets stuck in the barn, there's another idea lifted from Attic Panic, which is the light bulb unscrewing itself. Considering how many feature films have stolen his concept from Lights Out, I'm glad he was able to use this stuff from Attic Panic before somebody else did. He also got the orchestra to include a cover of the simple soundtrack that he created for the short. This would not be the only reference to his own shorts in the movie. The nun who's in charge of all of the girls is named Sister Charlotte, and in one scene she shows Mr. Mullins a photograph of her time in Romania, where he points out an older nun in the background that she doesn't recognize. This is actually Valak, the nun demon, and the antagonist of The Conjuring 2, and of course, The Nun, which Annabel Creation's post-credits scene is a teaser for. In the scene where the 2 older girls are gossiping under the sheet and they're attacked by something, they end up saying that it looked like Mrs. Mullins, but if you actually pause on that moment, it doesn't look like her or her mask. It just appears to be a generic porcelain mask with dark eyes. It kinda gives me The Purge vibes. Maybe this image will be expanded on in another movie. Janice discovers a picture of Bee in the hallway and brings it into her room to look at it. When she puts it in a dark spot, the eyes give off a demonic glow, and the same effect is used later on where we see the possessed form of Janice. This is the same effect that's used throughout Sandberg's feature film version of Lights Out on the main antagonist, Diana. There are a number of visuals that reference B. B is the nickname that the Mullins had given to their daughter, which is short for her full name, Annabelle. And I think this might be an intentional parallel to the first film, where we constantly see the letter A. In this one, there's an image of a bee on her window in her old room, bees on the vertical posts holding up the railing alongside the stairs, and when Linda looks through this kaleidoscope, this is what she sees, which is similar to the stereotypical Hollywood interpretation of what a bee's point of view might look like. I looked it up and they don't actually see a bunch of repeat images, that's only in the movies. Remember that slow chair that I mentioned earlier? You didn't think that wasn't gonna come back, did you? In fact, I think the scene where the chair gets stuck with Janice on it and the demon lurking nearby is another throwback to the original Annabelle, where Mia gets stuck on the elevator that won't go up with the demon lurking about in the storage area. When we learn the story of how the doll essentially got possessed, it's very similar to what happened to the nurses after the events of Annabelle, with the demon pretending to be the spirit of the little girl named Annabelle, asking permission to move into the doll and then causing violent attacks. The little girl Linda realizes that there's something evil in the doll and tries to get rid of it by throwing it in the well in the middle of the night, and, well, this happens. It's another callback to one of the short films on David's channel, this one a 2014 flick called Coffer. Roll it. So we find out how Mrs. Mullins was injured, by the demon posing as their daughter's ghost. But it's too late because the demon Malthus gets to both Mr. and Mrs. Mullins, causing the girls to try to escape the house. They get into the car, but have some trouble starting it, causing the headlights to blink on and off. And they notice the scarecrow move in between light flashes, which of course is a callback to Lights Out. At the end of the day, Sister Charlotte is able to lock the demonically possessed Janice in the closet, where she disappears through the wall, but the other girls are safe at least. They put the doll, which has supposedly been purged of all evil by this dude, in the back of the police car, which drives away past the grave of B, where this all started. So this goes back to that whole question from the last video. How did the doll go from this cop car to John purchasing it and giving it to Mia? The demon Malthus has to have something to do with it. Our final sequence takes place at St. Joachim Orphanage. Joachim is not only a reference to one of the great Bulls players from the 2000s, but also a biblical reference to the father of Mary, which makes sense because of the themes of their church versus the evil demons that persist throughout this franchise. The woman working at the orphanage is Lotta Lawston, the wife of David Sandberg. She stars in, I think, all of his short films and cameos in all of his features. The Higgins family, who you'll remember from the original Annabelle, comes to adopt Janice, who turns out to be the daughter that comes back to kill them and sacrifice them for Malthus years later. When they first meet her, they give her a gift. It's an actual Raggedy Ann doll, yet another parallel to the original Annabelle, which also has this doll featured in its epilogue. If you were to visit the actual Warren Museum, this is the doll that you'd find in the glass case. Annabel Creation ends as many Conjureverse movies do, with a slow push-in on the central object of this movie. In this case, of course, the Annabelle doll. So we've seen Annabelle's past, we've seen Annabelle's origin, so join me next time on Things You Missed to see Annabelle's future, because we're going to be covering the newest film, Annabelle Comes Home. Remember to subscribe to CZsWorld so you don't miss it, make sure you ring the death bell for notifications, and I'll see you in the next one. Assuming we both survive.